Evelyn's boots sank slightly into the glowing moss as she moved cautiously through the forest. The light from the bioluminescent plants painted the ground in shades of blue and green, and strange floating rock formations hovered silently above her. Every sound, every snap of a twig made her heart beat faster. She had been trained for this kind of exploration, but nothing in her years of scientific work had prepared her for the world of the Volari. She glanced over her shoulder at her team. A few meters behind, the others whispered to each other, their voices small and nervous. Evelyn clenched her jaw. "Stay alert," she whispered sharply. "We don't know what's out here, and we can't trust anything." They had been sent to study this remote planet for months, cataloging flora and fauna, but the reports of the Volari had frightened everyone. Large, towering humanoid beings with extraordinary strength, sharp reflexes, and a reputation for seeing humans as weak. Evelyn didn't like being thought of as weak. A rustle came from the dense foliage. She froze. Her team froze. A shadow moved, and then a figure stepped into the dim light. Tall, strong, and impossibly graceful, Kale's presence seemed to fill the clearing. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim forest light, and his armor shimmered like liquid silver. Evelyn's first thought was that he was not human, but then they already knew that. "You humans don't belong here," Kyle said in a deep, commanding voice. There was no anger in it, only authority. Evelyn straightened, planting her hands on her hips. "We belong wherever we choose to go," she said defiantly. "We are explorers, not intruders." Kyle's lips curved into a faint smirk. "You are brave to say that," he said, stepping closer. Every movement was precise, controlled, like a predator circling its prey. But bravery does not prevent consequences. Before anyone could react, Kale moved faster than Evelyn could follow. He disarmed one of her teammates with a fluid motion and then turned to her. Evelyn braced herself, refusing to show fear. She had faced dangerous animals and hostile environments before. She would not be intimidated by one alien warrior. "I'll never be your pet," she said firmly, meeting his glowing gaze. Kale paused, the faintest flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Pet?" he repeated. "Do humans think too highly of themselves? You will learn soon enough what obedience means." Evelyn's stomach tightened, but she refused to show weakness. "I don't need anyone to protect me," she said. "And I don't belong to anyone." For a long moment, Kale said nothing. Then he nodded slightly and gestured for the others to follow him. Evelyn's team exchanged worried glances, but moved quietly, knowing resistance was pointless for now. Evelyn stayed close behind Kale, her mind racing. She had to find a way to turn this situation to her advantage. They arrived at a camp hidden deep in the forest, where other Volari warriors stood silently, watching the humans with keen eyes. The camp was alive with activity. Metal clanged, alien weapons were sharpened, and the air smelled faintly of ozone. Evelyn noticed the precision in every action. Every Volari moved with purpose. Kyle finally addressed her directly. "You will remain here under my supervision. You will eat when you are given food, rest when you are told, and follow instructions." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "I will follow instructions when it is safe," she said. "Not because you demand it." Kale studied her for a long time, then nodded again. "We will see." The first few days were tense. Evelyn tried to maintain her independence, refusing to be controlled. She attempted small escapes using her knowledge of the terrain and human ingenuity. Each time Kyle intercepted her effortlessly, his movements fluid, almost like he anticipated her every thought. "You are clever," Kyle said one evening as she sat quietly after yet another failed escape attempt. "But cleverness is not strength." "I don't need to be strong like you," Evelyn shot back. "I have my mind." "That's enough." Kyle raised an eyebrow. "Your mind is sharp, yes. But here survival demands more than sharpness. You will understand in time." Despite her defiance, Evelyn couldn't help but notice the fairness in Kale's actions. He never harmed her unnecessarily. He never shouted or threatened physically, and when she failed a task, he didn't punish her cruelly. There was a strange balance in his authority, firm yet not cruel. Evelyn began to see things differently. She observed the Volari culture, their rituals, their training, and the subtle ways they relied on each other. There was strength in their unity, a kind of discipline humans rarely practiced. She resisted, telling herself she was different, but a small part of her respected it. One day, Kale led her to the training grounds. Massive poles, weights, and obstacle courses were set up, all designed to test physical skill, agility, and endurance. You will attempt this, Kyle said, his voice calm but firm. Do not fail. Evelyn glanced at the course. It looked impossible even for trained humans. I'm not your student, she said, and I certainly won't be your pet. Kyle didn't respond. He simply gestured for her to begin. Evelyn took a deep breath, feeling adrenaline surge through her veins. She had to prove herself, not to Kale, not to the Velari, but to herself. The first obstacle was a series of swinging logs over a deep pit. Evelyn timed her jumps carefully, relying on her balance and agility. She almost fell once, catching herself at the last moment. Kale watched silently, expression unreadable. Next came a climbing wall with jagged edges and shifting panels. Evelyn struggled, her muscles burning, but she forced herself upward. Each movement required careful planning and precision. She felt sweat drip down her back, her lungs burning, but she refused to give up. Halfway through, Kale stepped forward. Use your other hand. Shift your weight. You hesitate too much, Evelyn froze. His advice was precise, helpful, but she hated needing it. I don't need you, she snapped, shaking her head. Kyle's eyes softened ever so slightly. Sometimes survival demands help. Refusal to accept it can be fatal. Evelyn gritted her teeth and moved on, applying his advice silently. She reached the top, chest heaving, legs trembling. For a brief moment, she felt a strange mix of pride and irritation. She had completed the challenge, but she hadn't let him help her. Kale nodded once. You learn quickly, but this is only the beginning. That night, as she sat alone, Evelyn thought about the day. Her body ached and her pride burned, but there was a small, undeniable spark of respect for Kale. She still resisted him, still insisted she was independent, yet she could not deny his skill, intelligence, and quiet authority. The tension between them was electric. Every glance, every movement carried unspoken meaning. Evelyn wanted to resist him, but she also found herself wondering what he would do next, what test he might set, and whether she could meet it on her own terms. The following morning, Kale presented another challenge. This one involved navigating the forest alone, using only her instincts while avoiding hidden traps and Velari patrols. Evelyn felt a thrill of excitement mixed with fear. She could do this, she could prove herself. Hours passed. Evelyn ran, climbed, and hid, her mind and body pushed to the limit. Several times she came face to face with danger, a sharp-toothed predator, a hidden trap. But she survived, relying on her wits and agility. Each time, Kale observed silently from a distance. When she finally returned to the camp, exhausted and dirty, Kale stood waiting. You have survived, he said simply. Evelyn dropped to the ground, breathing heavily. Of course I survived, she said, trying to sound confident. I told you I don't need anyone to protect me. Kale's eyes held a faint amusement. You survived, yes, but you were lucky. There is a difference between surviving and thriving. You will learn. Evelyn glared, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing her admiration. I'll never be your pet, she repeated. Do you understand? Kale inclined his head slightly. I understand. And yet I also see the truth. You will change whether you admit it or not. That evening, Evelyn sat by the glowing moss, staring at the floating rocks above. Her body was sore, her mind exhausted, but she couldn't stop thinking about Kale. There was something about his presence, commanding, fair, and strong, that challenged her in ways she hadn't expected. She hated the idea of needing anyone, yet a part of her secretly wondered if she could ever survive without him. She clenched her fists, whispering to herself, I can't do this alone. The words shocked her. She had always prided herself on independence, but the trials, the danger, and Kale's quiet authority had pushed her to the edge. She refused to admit it aloud, but her exhaustion and fear were real. Kale approached silently, his shadow falling over her. You whisper the truth to yourself, he said softly. Admit it now or you will learn it the hard way. Evelyn looked up, eyes blazing, and shook her head. I don't need you. Kale's gaze was steady. We shall see, he said. Then he turned, walking back toward the camp, leaving her with her thoughts and the cold realization that tomorrow would bring another trial, and that she might have to face it with him or not at all. Evelyn lay awake that night, staring at the glowing canopy above, heart pounding. She had survived, she had resisted, and yet she couldn't shake the feeling that her defiance was slowly slipping. The forest was alive with danger and the Velari were watching. She was far from home, far from safety, and she had never felt more challenged in her life. Tomorrow would be another test, and deep down Evelyn knew she might not be able to face it alone. The sun barely rose above the horizon when Evelyn stirred. Her muscles ached from the previous day's trials, but the forest already hummed with life and she knew there was no time to rest. Today's challenge was said to be the ultimate test, a journey across the floating cliffs of the Valari forest, navigating hidden dangers, unpredictable terrain, and the ever-present threat of predators. She was meant to face it under Kale's guidance, but she wasn't ready to admit she needed any help. Kale was waiting, silent as always, a shadow among the glowing trees. His eyes scanned her with the faintest hint of amusement. "You are prepared?" he asked. Evelyn straightened, lifting her chin. "I'm prepared enough," she said. Inside, a small part of her admitted she was terrified, but she refused to let Kale see it. "You will need more than enough," Kale replied softly, almost like a warning. "You will need focus, strength, and trust. You cannot succeed alone." She clenched her fists and looked away. "I don't trust you," she said. "I only do what I have to survive." Kyle inclined his head. "Very well. Let us begin." They started moving through the forest. The floating cliffs rose above them, shifting slightly as if the planet itself breathed. Evelyn moved cautiously, her eyes scanning every shadow. Kale was beside her, quiet, letting her take the lead, yet his presence felt like a protective wall. Every time she misstepped or stumbled, he was there to steady her, silently correcting her balance or guiding her hand. She hated needing it, yet each time she accepted it, her confidence grew. Halfway through, a chasm appeared, deep, wide, and unforgiving. The only way across was a narrow bridge of floating stones, swaying slightly with the wind. Evelyn stepped onto the first stone, testing its balance. Her heart raced. One misstep and she would plummet into the darkness below. Kale moved silently beside her. "Step lightly," he said, his voice calm. "Do not rush." Evelyn shook her head, trying to force her pride to take control. She took the next step and almost slipped, catching herself with a trembling hand. Kale reached out, his fingers brushing hers. "Trust your instincts," he said, steadying her. Her cheeks burned. She hated the way her pulse quickened, hated the warmth that spread through her at his touch, hated the fact that she needed him. Yet at the same time, she felt a strange surge of strength. With Kale guiding her, she moved with confidence she didn't think she had. When they reached the other side, Evelyn collapsed to her knees, breathing heavily. "I did it," she gasped. Kale knelt beside her. "You survived, but you did not thrive. You hesitate too much. You will learn that survival is not enough. You must embrace your strength fully." Evelyn glared at him, still panting. "I don't need to embrace anything but my own mind." Kale's eyes softened. "Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes it is physical. Sometimes it is trust. You will understand soon." The next obstacle appeared moments later. A narrow canyon filled with moving platforms, shifting in unpredictable patterns. Evelyn's heart sank. This required coordination, timing, and instinct she didn't trust herself to have. She looked at Kale, ready to insist she could manage alone. But when she saw the intensity in his eyes, something inside her shifted. "Take my hand," he said simply. "We move together." Evelyn's pride screamed. She wanted to refuse, to show she could do this alone. But the truth was undeniable. She was scared. She needed guidance. Her body quivered as she reached out, fingers brushing his. The connection was firm, steady, and for the first time, Evelyn allowed herself to trust him. They moved in sync across the canyon, Kale's strength anchoring her when the platform swayed too far, his calm presence steadying her racing mind. For each step, each jump, she felt her confidence grow. She realized that trust did not make her weak. It made her stronger. Once they reached solid ground, Evelyn exhaled deeply. I didn't fall," she said, more to herself than to Kale. Kale nodded. "You did more than survive. You adapted." Evelyn frowned, her pride still flaring. "I didn't need you," she muttered. "You needed the guidance, not the hand," Kale replied. "There is a difference. Learn it well." They continued their journey, moving deeper into the alien forest. Shadows shifted, and the strange sounds of the planet filled the air. Evelyn was tense, her senses heightened. She realized she had been underestimating the dangers of this world. Every creature, every shift in the terrain demanded attention. And yet, with Kale by her side, she felt capable in ways she never had before. Hours passed, and exhaustion began to set in. They reached a cliff overlooking a glowing lake. its surface shimmering like liquid light. The path across was treacherous, narrow, and lined with jagged rocks. Evelyn's legs trembled, her body aching from the constant strain. Cale stepped closer. "You must cross alone," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "I will watch, but you must rely on your own strength now." Evelyn's stomach sank. Part of her wanted to refuse, to find an easier way, but she knew this was her moment, to prove she could be strong on her own. She took a deep breath and stepped forward, placing each foot carefully. The rocks were slick, the wind sharp, and the drop below dizzying. Her muscles screamed, but she pushed on, remembering everything Cale had shown her. Halfway across, a rock shifted beneath her foot. She stumbled, nearly losing balance. Instinctively, she grabbed Cale's hand. Her pride flared, but the grip gave her the strength to regain balance. I can do this," she whispered, more to herself than him. Cale's eyes met hers. "You can. You must." With renewed determination, Evelyn crossed the final stretch, landing safely on the other side. She fell to her knees, gasping for breath, soaked in sweat and trembling from exhaustion. Cale knelt beside her, his expression unreadable. "You did not fail," he said. "You survived. You adapted. You trusted when necessary. That is strength." Evelyn wanted to argue, to claim she had done it all herself, but the truth was undeniable. She had relied on him, and in doing so, she had discovered a part of herself she never knew existed. Her defiance had not been defeated, it had evolved. She looked up at him, panting. I didn't need you," she said, the words tasting strange on her tongue. Kyle's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Perhaps not, but you accepted guidance when it mattered. That is what counts." For a moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the strange hum of the alien forest. Evelyn's chest rose and fell rapidly, her mind still racing. She had faced danger, fear, and exhaustion, and had come out stronger. But more than that, she had faced her own pride, and realized that strength was not just in independence, but in trust, courage, and adaptability. Kyle extended a hand to help her stand. Evelyn hesitated, pride flaring, but then accepted it. She rose to her feet, feeling a strange bond forming between them, not as master and pet, not as captor and captive, but as equals who had tested each other, survived together, and earned each other's respect. As they walked back to the Valari camp, Evelyn couldn't help but glance at Cale. His expression was calm, but there was something in his eyes, a recognition of her courage, her resilience, her humanity. She felt a warmth she had not expected, a connection that was frightening and thrilling all at once. Do you always test everyone this way?" she asked, still panting. Cale's lips curved in a faint smile. "Only those who are worth it." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. She wanted to argue, to claim she didn't care what he thought, but the truth was undeniable. She did care. And perhaps for the first time in her life, she realized that needing someone did not make her weak, it made her human. As the forest gave way to the Valari camp, Evelyn felt a strange mix of pride, exhaustion, and exhilaration. She had survived, adapted, and learned more about herself than she had expected. Cale walked beside her, silent and steady, a presence that was both commanding and comforting. Evelyn straightened, chest rising with newfound confidence. "I still won't be your pet," she said, her voice firm but with a hint of amusement. Cale's eyes met hers and he nodded. "No, you are not. You are stronger than that. You are formidable." Evelyn smiled faintly, a mixture of pride and acknowledgement. She had faced the trials, faced Cale, and had come out stronger. Not a pet, not a captive, not weak, but a human who had earned the respect of a Valari warrior through courage, intelligence, and indomitable spirit. And deep down, she knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but now, she had the strength, the skill, and the courage to face them. With Cale at her side not as a master but as a guide, she was ready for anything.